Mr. Sharansky's name has been in the news for some 40 years as a Soviet dissident, a leading Israeli politician, recipient of the Congressional Gold Medal and the Presidential Medal of Freedom. In the 1970s, he was a noted human rights activist in the Soviet Union and founder of the Refusenik movement at a time when that might result in a heavy prison sentence in the Gulag or worse. And in fact, it did lead to the Gulag for Mr. Sharansky. He spent 9 years there, much of it, half of it, I understand, in solitary confinement. He had been sentenced to 13 years, I believe, but the term was shortened by President Reagan, who pressed Gorbachev for an early release. Mr. Sharansky also was a chess prodigy as a child, something that helped him to survive prison, where he played chess in his head against himself while he was in solitary. And chess is another reason for Mr. Sharansky's notoriety. In 1996, he beat Garry Kasparov, who was then the world chess champion. Mr. Sharansky also has been in the Israeli Knesset and has held a number of top ministry positions there in Israel. He's been a deputy prime minister and also minister of industry and trade and minister of internal affairs. Thank you for joining us today.
Thank you.
You were a child prodigy at chess, and I'm wondering, are chess prodigies usually quiet and introspective people? And if that's true, how did you overcome that to become an outspoken dissident in the Soviet Union?
Well, I think I was a very ambitious person. So at the age of 5, 6, 7, I wanted to be number one in the world in chess. But when it became clear to me that I cannot be number one, so I moved to math. And then when it became clear that I cannot be number one in math, I was looking where I can be and decided I can be a great political prisoner. That's how I finished in political prison.
That's an unusual career path for anyone. So you didn't have to push against your nature to become outspoken and seek some attention then. For the benefit of younger viewers, what did it mean to be a Refusenik in Moscow in the 1970s?
Look, I was a loyal Soviet citizen until the age of 20. What means to be a loyal Soviet citizen? It means to say what you're supposed to say, to read what you're permitted to read, to vote the way you are told to vote, and at the same time to know that all this is a lie. That in fact, the reality is different, but the reality you can discuss only with your friends and in the family. So the moment I felt enough strength to speak truth to the power and say that I really don't want to belong to this system. I want to go to Israel. I want to live as a proud Jew. I want to enjoy human rights. It meant that you cross the line between doublethink and dissent. So you'll be fired from a job. There'll be searches in your apartment. You'll be called for interrogations. You'll be threatened to be arrested. Many of your friends will ask you to take their name from your notebook, from your telephone book, because they don't want to be interrogated themselves. But at the same time, you start living as a free person. You really say things that you believe in. So I enjoyed having the life of Refusenik and human rights activist. And that what gave me strength to speak for my rights, for rights of other Jews, and then for rights of many others, of everybody.
You must have known what you were risking, of course, that it could lead to prison and...
Well, they were very busy in explaining me that I'll be arrested. And when I was arrested, very busy explaining me that I'll be sentenced to death if I will not cooperate with them. But I had to explain, first of all, to myself that my aim should not be physical survival, because if my aim is physical survival, then KGB will defeat me. They will destroy me. They'll know how to use it. My aim should be how to remain free person, even when you are in prison. And the moment you change the aim, they have one game with the one set of aims, and you have another game. They want you to convince you that physical survival, that is the only value in life, and you believe that the real value is how to be a free person. So that's the difference.
So you did end up in prison. I guess they accused you of treason, spying for the United States, I think. And you were there for 9 years, about half of the time in solitary. A lot of people say extended solitary is really a form of torture. And you were able to survive how?
Well, first of all, I was half of the time in solitary confinement, but solitary confinement is not a torture by itself. Punishing cell, in which I spent a year and a half, that is real torture, by hunger, by cold, by darkness, by being able to do nothing. So first of all, you have to explain to yourself, to remind yourself why you're there, to feel yourself in the middle of historical struggle and to feel yourself mobilized. But second, you also have to know how to use your brains. And I was really lucky. I had this great hobby of chess, and I loved playing chess blind, simultaneously with some partners. But it was only for hobby. Now I knew why I needed it. I was playing hundreds and thousands of games in my head. I won all of them. I felt myself very strengthened intellectually. So while they were expecting me to that the passing of the time in punishing cell will be destroying me, in fact, I succeeded to strengthen myself.
And when you were released and you moved to Israel immediately, how, looking back at that point, how do you feel that it changed you and your view of the world, of yourself?
You mean the years that I wasn't?
Yes, once you were out.
Well, first of all, once I'm out, I enjoy continuing to live as a free person. And those who think that it is easier to live as a free person in our world than in prison, they're wrong. In the free world, where certainly there are thousands of choices, you can waste all your life on making different choices and losing the perspective, losing the aim. There you had a very clear aim and very clear understanding what is good and what is bad and where are enemies and where are friends. So it makes your life, in fact, very easy and very clear and with one strategy. In our daily life, we have thousands of possible strategies to choose the one which gives you a lot of meaning in your life. It's not so simple. But I enjoy to continue the life of a free person. Yeah.
So when you got what you actually wanted, which was being a free person, it was a little bit overwhelming.
Yeah. Yeah, well, it was very dramatic. And one day I was taken from Soviet prison, put to the airplane, brought to Germany, crossed the bridge, met my wife, whom I didn't see for 12 years, came to Israel, and at night, together with all the people of Israel, celebrating my release. So I do know what it is to go straight from hell to paradise.
In many ways, you've been a visionary throughout your life. You perhaps saw there was an opening for what you did in the Soviet Union to get some kind of a reaction. It got a lot of international reaction at the time. I mean, you paid a heavy price, but it did get the word out. It did have an effect. Do you feel that you always had those innate leadership qualities, or did you have to learn or teach yourself those things along the way?
No, look, if I knew in advance that what I'm doing will bring me to prison, to 9 years in prison, to 12 years separation from my wife, to the station where for years you will not know whether you will stay alive or not, I'm not sure that I would start it. It is good that you don't know in advance about everything what will happen in your life. And you're learning, and you're building yourself, and you're strengthening while going through this. So did I know from the very beginning that I'll be the leader? No, I didn't know. But with every step, I felt more and more determined to keep my freedom, to remain a free person, and to defeat or to fight against those who are trying to restrict this freedom for me and for the other people. So I think leadership is something that you are developing in the process, not something that you're born with it.
When you look around today at today's leaders in business or in government, there's a lot of ethical lapses that we've seen across the board. What do you think is the most overlooked quality about leadership today in business or in politics? In other words, what leadership qualities are most lacking in general, in your opinion?
Well, first of all, very basic, simple understanding that moral behavior is the most profitable behavior. And I think it's American idea. I think all the American philosophy, Franklin's philosophy, in fact, the founder of this place, started from this, that it is good, it is profitable to be a moral person. I think somehow it's ignored, it's forgotten, definitely in international relations, that we can see how real politic considerations in politics and business and everything are prevailing. And that's unfortunate, because in the end, a heavy price is paid for this. Now, in terms of, let's say, it's to go from the level of morality simply to the level of, let's say, of chess, I think the real talent in every game, in business game, in political game, in chess game, is how to keep as many options as possible, as long as possible. Some people think that the best chess player is the one who can think, who can count moves longer, for 10 moves ahead or 12 moves ahead. In fact, the real strong chess player is the one who knows how to keep as many opportunities as possible, as long as possible. Because then you really, your opponent will be lost in the attempts to respond to all of them. And that's something which I always find is ignored or forgotten or undermined by people in daily life.
You're running an organization that's focused on Jewish immigration into Israel at the moment, which surely has some business-like aspects to it. I know you spent many years in government in Israel. And here at Wharton, there's a group that's just formed, and it's called the Public Policy Initiative. And basically, it wants to improve communications between business and the policy-making world, government. So since you understand those worlds a little bit better than most people, could you offer some advice for how businesses and government can work more closely together? We see some big gaps in our country today, for example.
Yeah, well, in fact, my view is very traditional for Americans, though I come from a communist country. So I think the less the government is involved in telling people what to do, the better. And because of my Soviet background, I believe in it to the extreme. And in fact, I was lucky to be Minister of Industry and Trade in the first government of Benjamin Netanyahu when Israel was built as a very socialist country with very little opportunities to compete, because it was the state built in the underground by Zionist socialists who came from Russia in the beginning of the century. So they built it without, thanks God, without these ideas of communism, but definitely in the way that the government is building business opportunities. And we spent a lot of time in encouraging competition. And I signed more free trade agreements with the outer world than all the previous ministers of industry and trade together. And I had the full support of Prime Minister because Bibi Netanyahu does believe in free competition. At the same time, I have to say, with every free trade agreement which I was signing, whether it is with Turkey or with Mexico or with any other country, there were demonstrations in front of my house of the workers from the companies who feel that now that they are threatened, that now the production of glass will be in Turkey and not in Israel, and production of textile will be in India and not here, and so on and so on. And to some extent they were right, because their jobs were in danger. But on the other hand, And that's what gave opportunity to Israel to use its relative advantage. And our relative advantage is as we call it, Yiddishkopf, the very high level of intellectual capabilities of our labor force. And Israel today has more startups than all the Western Europe together. The small country has more startups, technological startups, than all of Western Europe. The only place in the world which can compete with Israel is Silicon Valley, but Silicon Valley is bringing brains from all the world. I believe that the role of government is to use to create good opportunities for the people to use their talents. But yes, on the other hand, if you go in this direction without looking around, without thinking about the needs of the society, here in America and we in Israel suddenly find out big social gaps. So again, there must be balanced approach, and we have to keep many opportunities at the same time together.
Thank you very much for coming to speak with us.
Thank you.